Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jamie Daggers. I'm an award-winning mini painter and full-time streamer, and recently I heard about a new streaming platform called Moonbeam. Moonbeam's in Backerkit right now, and I wanted to know a little bit more about it, so I decided to reach out to the COO of Moonbeam, Anthony Joyce-Rivera, and ask him to come on my stream and give a little interview telling us a little bit more about it. So the interview that follows is a little bit longer, but I kept the editing to a minimum so that you guys could get as much of the content as possible, and I really hope you enjoy it. If you want to give everybody a rundown on what Moonbeam is and what your goals are and everything, I would love to hear about just the philosophy behind the platform. We're turning this up to 11.
Oh yeah! All right, hey everybody. Jamie, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You're so very welcome. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no stress on my end about never do a live demo of a tech product, and then here we are on the competitor's website, and then there's a raid and all this stuff, and it's like pressure's on. No, this is cool. Well, I'll talk a little bit about Moonbeam while we get the other stuff set up.
Yeah, well, I get this all dialed in.
Yeah, well, hey everybody, I'm Anthony Joyce-Rivera. I'm the COO of Moonbeam. We're a new live streaming platform that's going to be launching later this year, early next year. We'll be having our alpha and beta first, and then the full-scale launch. But a little bit, like, we all hear about a live streaming platform, and we all know, like, okay, yeah, they all shut down, they all fail. What's going to make this one new? And kind of what's coming up on the screen, you can see a little bit of what Jamie's putting there is, we have been thinking about this problem for the last year and a half. My co-founder and the CEO, Pat Connery, he and I have been working together literally a year and a half thinking about this problem. And it's originated because I, too, am a creator. I create D&D publications. I've been creating D&D adventures and stuff like that for about 6 years now. I've been publishing those. And over the course of my time in publishing and stuff like that, the online spaces just started to die. They got really bad, really vitriolic, full of hate. And I came across Pat in D&D circles, and we said, hey, he was getting his PhD in AI, machine learning, but he specializes in speech. And we thought, can we use this new technology to stop harassment online? Can we prevent cyberbullying? Can we allow creators to feel safe enough where they can read the comments on something when they publish a book or when they're live streaming? And the answer is yes. So over the last year and a half, we created something called Pixis, which is a very powerful moderation technology that understands the sentiment and nuance in language. So it allows individuals now to kind of set their own parameters of kind of what they want to engage with online. And it really prevents harassment in a way that has never been able to be done before. So it could keep, if you have kids, like I'm a father, I got 3 young boys. This could prevent cyberbullying. If you're a creator, it could prevent hate raids, it could prevent trolling and all these things. And so that's a very powerful technology. Now, I'm talking about a live streaming platform. So you're like, Anthony, what does this have to do with that? We saw that with live streaming platforms, there is a very high level of harassment occurring. 64% of individuals, of adults online, have been harassed. And that number grows as you are, depending on what your gender is, your cultural identity and background, that number skyrockets. And so we also see that with live streaming, there's also another issue where 99% of live streamers are not making above the minimum wage. And so what is going on? And we saw this with, it doesn't matter what platform you're on, this problem is throughout the entire live streaming space. And so we said, all right, it's not about the platforms themselves. It's about something else that's causing this failure. And we realized that what we do as creators usually relies on a team of people. Most communities need a team, a community of folks to kind of thrive and grow. And all these platforms are set up where a creator is a channel. They're this island unto themselves. And when they're not live streaming, they don't exist on the platform. So their community usually has to grow somewhere else, like on a Discord server or something like that. And so what you see before you kind of coming up in the frame here is what we call realms. These are what we have instead of channels. So Moonbeam, we came up with this concept called the realm concept, where an individual will establish a realm. Think of it like a Discord server. And using our moderation technology, our Pixis technology, they will set up the moderation settings within their realm. What's allowed, what's not allowed. This is very much in line with like freedom of choice with how you want to run your community. And then that creator, whoever kind of runs this realm, they can invite other streamers into it to live stream to their audience. So this reduces like the need to be online 24/7 streaming. You can have your friends come into your realm, you can go into theirs, and you could simulcast to different realms all at once. And this allows creators to do what they do best, which is create, and not worry about like all the logistics of running a channel, marketing, and moderation and all that all in one.
There for a minute. I know I have some questions. I know chat also does. But if it's easier for you, if you want to go through the demo first, and then we can hit you with some of the Q&A there at the end. Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah. And stop me anytime you want me to answer a specific question, and
Sure.
I'll be really brief with the demo part, so we could jump right into the Q&A. I love that. So you'll see here when I send a message in chat, you got your little sentiment analysis that pops up, kind of shows you what you got. I'm going to show you here how a realm could moderate their settings. So what's really neat is with this new technology, and we're doing this for the first time. Like we are on the cutting edge of this. So I'm very excited about when we have our alpha and beta to really define this and kind of evolve this technology to be very useful. But we have it right now by different categories. You could fine tune things, and the way Pixis works is it has a platform level baseline, and then within your community, as you see things that pop up from moderation, your human moderators, yourself, human in the loop kind of thing. A human person is validating, yes, this is good, no, this is bad when there's a flag, and Pixis will learn. So, for example, if there's like a catchphrase in one of your streams or something like that, where you might use a curse word or something as a joke, Pixis can learn that that's a joke in your space, and then it won't kind of flag it anymore.
Cool.
And then we have the old school like banned word kind of list here. But one last thing I'll show you is imagine if these were three different live streamers here. You could invite them into your realm. They are going to live stream, and they have their own chat and their own moderation as well, so that they can engage with your audience. And this increases discoverability, because they could be, if you have your own realm, like the Minis painting realm or the Jamie Daggers realm, you could simulcast there in a miniature painting realm, in a Warhammer 40K realm, and all of these all at one time. So now all these different communities of interest to you that like to see your kind of content, they could discover you and find you, and then be funneled into your own community, into your own realm, or they might just like subscribe to, tip, or donate directly to you when they see your live streams.
I find that like super fascinating as a concept, because whereas, and I hate to immediately just start comparing it to existing platforms, but I feel like that's a good way to get a baseline of where you guys are coming from with this whole structure. But the thing that comes to mind to me is the idea. It's so perfectly timed, because we just had a big raid from a lot of our friends in the art community, which you can't argue that mini painting isn't part of that larger umbrella. But in this environment, in Moonbeam's environment, it would be like that would be a realm where we would have mini painting as a realm, based on your example, I'm assuming. And those crossovers would not just be implied, but they would be like natural.
Yes, absolutely. And so, the person who runs the realm, when they're inviting people that are creators to like stream to their audience, they're almost like curators. So these kind of realm owners are going to want to find great, creators themselves, and kind of recruit them to stream in their realm. And what's neat
That's
is how we deal with like the money here. Like how do you make more money? Because going back to the fundamental issue that we have with live streaming is everybody's failing. Very few people actually succeed. And this is work. Like you're doing real work here, and it's like you should be able to get paid for that, right? And what we've done is, I'm going to show you here. When you go into schedule your stream, you'll be able to pick whatever stream, whatever realms you're a part of. You'll set it up, and then you have a built-in revenue split. Now you control this, not the person running the realm. You as the creator. So for here, let's say I'm the streamer. I got my team with me. We're gonna have the producer. They're gonna get some revenue, and then I got my moderators, because moderators are awesome. and they're going to get, their split as well. And now when you go live in all of these different realms and you generate any kind of revenue, whether it's ad revenue, subscriptions, tips, donations, all that, it's going to automatically be split up this way to your team. And then when we have video on demand capability and it becomes a VOD, it will generate the revenue that way in perpetuity as well. So this is a way to get people who normally haven't gotten paid before to get paid, but also to lower the burden on creators who had to like one person produce, moderate, and all that stuff. And now you can have people help you, and like they're getting paid, and it's making the creator's life easier. And now this realm, they're getting like awesome content to their audience. We're all there, very synergistic. So I'm gonna pause and like let's questions, answers. I got a lot more I can talk about and give a lot more details, but I love just like diving into it.
I've got a lot to say too, which is
Heck yeah.
and
Heck yeah.
I have to like preface that by saying that I'm very heartened to hear that like this is what I presumed is the direction you guys are trying to go is exactly what it sounds like you're describing here. And like functionally speaking, as a I'm in a weird spot with my platform where it is undeniably growing. But there's also a lot of new mini painters. I always like kind of think of them as cohorts. We have different cohorts of streamers that start at different times, but they, as long as they exist in the same parentheses, they all kind of grow at the same rate. But you certainly have people who are able to, say, devote full-time status to streaming, and inevitably they're going to typically grow quicker than the people who are doing it as a part-time thing, and maybe eventually try to move full-time, right? I find that the idea of this realm status allows the people who are doing it in a more full-time capacity can also create a space in which those other people who don't have that time or the energy or the resources to sink into doing it as often as someone who's doing it full-time can still create a space in which people can succeed without that competition. I find that like so often with streaming, with mini painting, there's this perceived scarcity when in reality creating a larger audience in general, whether that's connecting via different realms or connecting via different concepts. I work in such a niche space of mini painting, but I find that that's really easy to still sell as a concept to art streamers, for example, or makers and crafting streamers. But then you get into realms, I'm sure, like video gaming and things like that, where things are a little bit different. But, I like the idea of those things being interconnected in ways that are curated by the people making that content, so that if one day I'm painting Karlach from Baldur's Gate 3, maybe I'm not always doing video game content, or like I do a video game stream once a week to kind of relax a little bit, but like it seems like it's just a really great opportunity to kind of cross-pollinate a little bit and help uplift the people that again like don't necessarily have the expertise or the time to commit as much as someone like me who spends all their time streaming and working on stream and all this stuff. That's fantastic. I'm really excited to hear that.
Yeah, and you kind of touch on something that's very interesting, where when we started looking at this problem, I would scour just like Reddit threads, online, just posts about new streamers who are like, if you type in Google, like, how do you start streaming? It's like the most famous question asked, right?
Sure.
And then you see like this deluge of like the standard answers, like stream 20 to 40 hours consistently. And then it's like, you're going to get no viewers at first. Your revenue, you're not going to have any. You're going to do this grind. And then you have to make it past the horde of trolls that are going to attack you and the harassment. And if you do all these things, you might kind of make it. And what make it means is it's kind of like, man, that's tough. Like doing all these things. And then when I've made it, it's still very tough. The burnout is real.
Totally.
Kind of everything's real about it. And so I thought, I grew up playing like MMOs, like EverQuest. We all know like World of Warcraft, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Moonbeam there'll be like newbie zone realms. Like, hey, this is the realm that's like newbie friendly. If you're a new streamer, this community will help you out. And then guess what? Now that if you're participating in this community in the chat area and getting to know everybody, you understand like their moderation values, they're kind of like community ethics in a way. And then they're like, hey, you've been here, you're pretty cool. You could stream in the realm, and now you have like a built-in audience of people that already know you. And it's not like you're by yourself hitting live on that first day ever of streaming, and you have no idea if there's going to be zero viewers or if you're going to get like hate rated, right?
Yeah.
And so we think this is going to be just like better, and also will allow people to like casually stream, and not have to feel like the burden. And then also, like you said, if you're doing this all the time, I'm sure you would have like your community here in the realm just growing, growing, growing. Yeah, you'll do your live streams, but then you could really also be that helping hand to someone else and be
I
like,
think
hey,
I think that's an
promote it.
interesting approach because and not to like overblow my role in this situation, but in terms of community building as a streamer, from my perspective, and people in chat, you may agree, may not, I don't know, but you do end up inhabiting that role of community builder, and like ideally, you're what it sounds like is Moonbeam's giving a lot of opportunity for those community leaders to make a lot of these
Mhm.
calls, which you hope is like an equitable arrangement. But it's interesting that you've given the, like, for example, the profit share split to the person joining in that situation versus the person in control. So there is kind of a, at least as much of a power balance as you can possibly introduce to a situation like this, because that could really, like somebody who's trying to take advantage of that and finds himself in a leadership position may not be acting with everybody's like like best interest in mind. It could be very self-interested, but I can see why like that decision was made the way that it was. Like it's either you do allow for that or you add too much control over the situation. If the idea is that the platform is for the creators, like you're going to have to at some point, I think, relinquish some control to people that could potentially be gatekeepers, and the hope is that they don't, right?
Let's talk about that. So we spend a lot of time. So let me back up and say, first and foremost, what we found was we need to approach this with a lot of responsibility and care. So we're working with behavioral psychologists who are already a part of our team from day one as we roll Moonbeam out, because we want to ensure that the framework allows for the most equitable approach without like the power dynamics at play for people to take advantage of others unfairly, right? So that was done with, so the realm. I'm going to kind of go here to subscribe. So people will subscribe to realms, and I have moonstones up here, and I'll talk about that with the audience here in a moment. But
Mm-hmm.
a realm owner, they get subscriptions to their realm. People in their community can subscribe to their realm, and it could do a lot of things. It could open up like VIP chat rooms. It could open up a new video library or exclusive streams. You all will set the amount of moonstones that a subscription costs, and you could have multiple tiers that you also set. It's all very modular. And so when you think about it, this community is thriving, and if they're having fun and love this realm, they are going to be subscribing and getting benefits for this. But then it also, this is where the power dynamic comes in. The realm owners will all need content, and that's when they'll want to invite creators in, and that's where the creators now have their revenues kind of controlled. So realm owners are getting subscriptions from their direct community. The creators are getting like revenue from the ads, from the views, from the community that's like donating, tipping, and giving money that way to their actual video content. And so there's like realm owners need creators like the streamer type as much as the streamers need like an audience and a realm to kind of showcase to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's really the neat thing here, where both can win. It's almost like a TV network when you think about it. It's like TV networks need content and they pay for it, right? Like
Right.
that's how it works. And so
Right.
we kind of were influenced by that.
I
And
think
then
it's interesting
yeah,
too that you highlight the relationship between the audience and the streamer, because I really do try to like make a point to like be vocal about how special and how important that relationship is, especially in the situation where we're asking people to spend time with us every single day. We're asking for countless human hours on a daily basis to kind of pay attention to the things that we're doing, and especially in an environment like Twitch, ultimately you are being your progress is kind of gatekept by how successful you are at that thing. So even if it's somebody, the most talented streamer in the world, if nobody is catching on to that, if nobody's like put in a position where they can learn that, then it doesn't matter how good you are. And so yeah,
mhm,
like ultimately like highlighting that relationship between the viewers and the streamers, I think is the key here, especially from the perspective of growth.
yes, yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking at the chat here, and I'll touch on a
Yeah,
few
I was
things
actually
that.
going to move on to chat questions, guys. If you have a question, even if you've asked it before, we I don't know that I don't want to presume, Anthony, that you have all the time in the world to do this, but I can do this for however long you can. I doubt we're going to be able to get to every single person's question, but if you do want to ask one, please use the highlight function, and I will try to get through them as quickly, like as in whatever order we can. We'll try to address the questions. If you have like a very specific one, start with that, and then we'll kind of narrow it down from there. Does that sound good?
And you could ask me away, Jamie, whenever you see the questions. You just
Cool,
shoot it
cool.
over, and I'll answer.
Yeah, that sounds great. My
Yeah.
question, while we wait for those to roll in,
Yeah.
is okay. So from creator's perspective, the one thing that I always feel like psychologically separates people from like entry level creators to people that have been doing it for a while is kind of a verification system usually, and a lot of times that's either gamified or it is in some cases financially motivated. Do you have that may be a further down the road thing. I'm certain getting the platform up and running and successful is probably the first move. Do you have any thoughts, or has any thought been put into that sort of structure? Is it going to be merit based? Is it going to be like raw time spent doing something?
Okay. You're talking about like a partner program or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
totally.
that. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna answer this. This is a super fascinating question to me to get asked because almost every platform operates this way. It is put in a lot of things, time, effort, whatever, and then we will give you kind of like these incentives. I find that to be it's very off-putting for me as a creator myself because what I
Hmm.
hear is like let's take your mini painting, right?
Right.
For example. I'm gonna show off a mini of my own too right here because like they so I've commissioned art. I told you on email. Jess is one artist who I've worked with, but I see like what you all do is artwork, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's streaming or physical painting or whatnot. And it would be very odd for me to say, what are your rates for commissioning a piece to get painted? And you
Right.
told me, I said, well, I've never really worked with you before, so I'm going to cut that in half. And why don't we start there?
Yeah.
And then if and then you give me all these good deals up front, and then I'll give you a little bit more maybe down the road. There's just something so weird about that where like you're the one putting in the work to make content, and the deal I'm giving you is like I'm I'm taking away more upfront from you
Hmm.
until
Hmm.
you prove yourself. So our monetization whole thing we have with the moonstones allows us to not have anything like that. And
Okay.
the way it works is a moonstone is worth 1 penny, and people buy packs of moonstones from us, and we take our cut there. So you'll have a pack of moonstones like 750, and we'll sell for like 9.99. We'll keep a small part of that for us. People have their moonstones, and when they give them out, the creators they get who get them get 100% of that value.
Hmm.
There's no fees, there's no nothing. And what that does from that simple like monetization flipping of how we do things, it allows every content creator to make 100% of what they're given on day one. Like I don't think that someone who is a full-time parent with a job who wants to stream and can't dedicate a ton of hours should be somehow getting compensated
Totally.
less for their work
Yeah.
simply because they're not grinding it out, right?
Right. Right.
And so we've set it up where when a lot of folks ask the creator program kind of question, and I think the answer is up front. We're trying to make it so like you're all treated the same
Hmm.
based on
Hmm.
because that's fair. I
Right.
don't really care. I don't see a difference between someone who spends 100 hours grinding it out and someone who spends 1 hour. It's
I
work
think
is work.
ultimately those programs really put a lot of power into the platform's hands too, to kind of deign who is or is not worthy of that sort of situation. I know even me saying
Mhm.
that something along those lines can sound like it could come across to people who are misinterpreting what I'm saying as like a bitterness or something like that. But in reality, the person who's putting in 10 hours versus the person who's putting in 100 hours, the in your environment, the difference between those two people will be the opportunity for those people to spend those moonstones in their space. So ultimately
Yes.
that value is going to be in the time spent, a direct reflection, ideally, right, in a vacuum, a direct reflection of how much time's being put into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm coming back up here full screen so I can talk to everybody
Sure.
about these questions directly. Let's see here. But yeah, let's see. If you got where am I at? Let's
There we
see
go.
here. Hey, okay, cool. Um,
So I'm gonna pitch some of these audience questions your way here.
yeah.
Olympian asks, if every streaming platform is having monetary issues, how do you keep the service running? Streaming, CDNs, global access, storage costs is immense, even in spaces where juggernauts in tech like Microsoft has had monetization issues. What's the way to support the platform itself? And a little addendum is, I really want this to succeed. I'm just worried about infrastructure cost.
Okay, great question. The problem is that the streaming platforms that exist today, they have set themselves up for failure with this weird paradox. Okay, so I want to kind of walk through this again. We all know bandwidth costs are the overriding cost that causes streaming platforms to fail monetarily, right? None of them are profitable. None of them are profitable. Even this one has admitted that publicly. Now, when we think about things like, okay, we were just talking about the creator incentives programs they have. What do? They require people to stream a ton, a ton. So there's this like weird problem where they're saying on our platform, you're not discoverable unless you stream. So what we're going to do is we're going to make you stream a ton. And we're going to make you stream a ton to probably 0 people. So most streamers are getting a small audience with that. They have 0 people, maybe 5. And you build up this huge bandwidth cost that's just like doing nothing.
Mhm.
It's just people grinding it out to the ether to grind out. And so when they were set up a decade ago, when these platforms were set up that way, they just didn't think about all of these things, right? They
Right.
didn't consider the immense bandwidth costs. They didn't consider all these kind of like logistic stuff. When you look at like a realm, there's a lot of value just from the chat functionality, like the community that's going to live there. So the platform itself, we call it a live streaming platform. But when you look at how it's set up, where streamers could theoretically stream a lot less and make a lot more because they're coming in and streaming to this pre-existing audience, that's the idea. We can cut the cost of bandwidth right out the gate because I don't want people streaming 20, 40 hours a week if they don't want to. Like, I want people to make more streaming less. Like, if you still want to stream a lot, great. But we're doing all this stuff so that people stream less, make more, and we bring the cost down. We give a lot more value to other things like the chat functionalities, the communities there. There's some post functionality we have that are like more like Reddit threads that are in realms that you can have as well. So
I would wager,
there's
and
a lot.
if you
Oh,
can
yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong, but to capitulate on that concept is not necessarily providing a situation in which the streamer can stream less, so much as there's more efficacy when you are streaming. So there's a little more incentive to not put so much into it
yes,
if you can't, you know.
you're hitting it on nail on the head.
Cool,
That's
cool.
the idea.
Because I think the describing it that way might come across as like, oh, less time with streamer, and that's like patently not what a lot of people want, right? So like the fear of that is not something that that the concept is should be approached from, but more of a, I don't know. I guess just what I said is it's more efficient. It's more, there's more efficacy to
Yeah,
the work that we're putting into it.
exactly. And you can still
One
chat with your community when you're not like live, so you're actually
right,
getting a lot more probably time with the streamer you
totally,
enjoy because
totally.
now, yeah,
I'm going to time you out there for a hot second. I have to welcome our raiders, Panda. Thank you so much for raiding in. I appreciate you so much. We were talking with Anthony from Moonbeam, who has given us a little bit of a demo of the new platform, and we're fielding some audience questions here. So if you guys have any questions as we go, we are trying to deal with them as they've come in slowly but surely, and working our way through it. So I would, like I said for everyone else, I would suggest hitting it with your most important question first, and then if there's more time, we'll repeat here. We'll go to other people's questions. So we'll go on to another one if that's cool with you, Anthony.
let's do it.
As a mod, it's difficult to find and perform different functionality for stream. There's so much we can't control from our end, not being the streamer. Is there more functions on Moonbeam to help mods out? And that is from Lil Wheelie Cleric, one of
Yes.
my wonderful mods.
Yes. So when you think about what Moonbeam is, we took a lot of I use Discord a lot. I think there's a lot of cool stuff there. And so a realm has like that kind of vibe and that modularity to include like roles. So you'll be giving people like the moderator role. What the
Mm-hmm.
moderator role is will be determined by the person whose realm that is. And you're giving them access to certain rights, right? Like admin rights, overriding rights, streaming rights. So moderators can be given a lot of access to do things in the realm, depending on how that realm is structured. and that realm will be structured by the people running it. So our approach has always been modularity over one size fits all. So when you think about Moonbeam's like design philosophy for special features and stuff like that, we're putting all the power of that in the hands of the realm owners, the people who run the community, because each community will have its own different way of doing things. So we are very against one size fits all because one size fits all approach just fits everybody like least bad, I guess, is kind of like whatever, good enough. But we want to really fine tune to be like, no, this is perfect for my needs and my community. And my moderators have all of these kind of features and access versus another realm. It might just be this one functionality.
That's great. That's terrific. And I think ideally, just based on what you've told me too, that like a lot of the I guess from my perspective as a queer streamer who
Mm-hmm.
faces not I'm lucky to not face as much adversity as I think a lot of people do. We have a wonderful community that is pretty self-selecting, and I think the fear is that a lot of time will be taken up by mods having to kind of moderate at the ground level, we'll say, right? Like people who are coming in and saying inappropriate things or like whatever, the more we'll say like everyday kind of harassment, as terrible as that is to think of as a concept.
Mm-hmm.
Their abilities as a mod will be freed up for more high level kind of engagement, like setting up polls or like having some sort of like audience engagement that the streamer can't necessarily do when you have a large amount of people in your chat. It
Mm-hmm.
sounds to me like your like the moderation software that you have is the goal is to have that do a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It and Pixis right now that it is we have benchmarked it against like every auto mod thing you can think of.
Cool.
It blows them all out of the water. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, it's gonna free them up.
Awesome. Okay, we've got another one from Grumpy Crane Studio, and he asks, how is revenue being calculated for a creator if they are being broadcast across multiple realms? I know he has another one later. I kind of read ahead. His other question, which I know the answer to, but I'm sure would be wonderful for you to share with everyone, is also, do you have an exclusivity clause with your streaming?
Let's start with the exclusivity clause. Hell no. No, we don't. No, why would I do that? Like,
I
no, we
wanted to
don't.
pitch. I wanted to pitch that one to you because I already know the answer to this.
Yeah. No, we are totally against that. Like, and here's the philosophy behind that as like the co-founders, like, um, we want to ensure that we have to be motivated to have the best platform for creators anywhere, period. Because if I have to trap you here, it means that it is not the best at that. So that's we want to be the most creator obsessed platform in on the planet. And there will be nothing to keep you here. And we want everyone to simulcast on every other platform and talk about how much they love Moonbeam so that they go back to your realm and you're like, well, this is really awesome. And then you thrive and grow. Like
Mhm.
straight up. That's where we're
Yeah.
gonna put our money at.
Yeah.
Um, revenue is gonna be so the creator, when they are setting again, since the creator kind of has that rev split themselves, when they're simulcasting in different realms, they're the ones setting that up. And we'll have this is interesting because there are a lot of technical, very nuanced kind of things, and we're figuring this out in our alpha and beta later this year.
Hmm.
Um, but whether when you're simulcasting, will the rev split be kind of like static and the same across all of those realm instances, or will we be able to kind of have a tailor-made approach? Because there's a possibility where there might be a realm that's like huge. Like the way I envision it is, I think there might be people who curate a realm. They just have this really big audience of like enthusiastic, awesome people that love content. And when you stream in it, you would make a lot of money. Like this community would probably just donate, tip, and be very enthusiastic. And in that case, the creator could like give that realm back some of the money they earn, right? Like a 10% or something like that, which is very fair. Um, so we're looking at like that. Like, are there cases where if you're simulcasting in different realms and there was some arrangement like that, we would know where these viewers came from and kind of know their money and kind of split it up that way. So that stuff we're gonna figure out in like alpha and beta
Hmm.
because this is so we're the only ones doing it.
Totally.
Someone has to be the first to figure it out ever, and folks would be helping chime in and giving us their
Yeah.
thoughts and opinions so we can make
I,
that.
I
Yeah.
love to hear that. I know from the perspective of doing what I do, one of the things I talk about with my chat and with other streamers is that like there's no laid out path for what this career looks like. There are people who have done it like to at the top of the level, like the top of the career, and there are people who do it kind of at a mid range. But either way, there is no path forward because a lot of it is really just like time and place. It's all opportunity, right? And
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, like finding those pain points is going to be something that I think happens along the way. And the fact that you're tuned into the community, as you mentioned, being creator obsessed, I think there's a lot of creators who look at something like this and do want it to exceed just because of how much more equitable it is to us as creators, to the people who are putting a lot of that work into it, and all of our support system, of course, too.
Hmm.
And I think ultimately it's just going to be an environment that I think building that communication from the start, I think, is really going to be a measure of success, at least from my perspective. Who knows? The proof is in the pudding, of course. But
You're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right. And we talk about who we're building this for. We're building it for you. We're building it for creators, and
mhm,
that's why these decisions will be so important to us about what the needs are of the community, so that you can thrive. And
mhm,
and again, it's simply because we believe we could really move fast with it and really challenge the status quo model. And
mhm,
all these new streaming platforms and the ones that have failed, when you really think about what they are, they're the same thing with a different color palette, and they talk about maybe you make more, you make less. That's really the only difference,
mhm,
and that's why ours is kind of like taking this approach, completely different
mhm.
approach to it. Yeah.
Our next question comes from Allison Silverhair, and it is: will this be safe for schools to use?
Yes. Oh, I love that you asked it. So we've actually thought about what a realm can be, and one of them is education. We believe that like a school or a virtual school, anything like that, like could have a realm, and then because you have these different live streams happening, those would be like the classrooms, like a teacher teaching math or something, and it pops up, and you go to math class, and you're there. So we actually have been thinking about like educational uses for this, and then again metered and kind of combined with Pixis, that the keeping folks safe, preventing cyberbullying, right? So making sure that that place is safe, uh, people, are not being harassed, and stuff like that. So yeah, education is one thing I think it could be really cool for.
Awesome, awesome. Noah JB asks: is there mobile ready use planned for the alpha or beta?
Right now, iOS is in active development, so we have a mobile team working on this right now. Will it be ready by alpha? I'm not sure. In alpha, perhaps. Beta, I would say likely, but it is right now being actively worked on. We have all the integrations happening there, so that is part of the rollout plan.
Cool. Next question comes from Olympian, and the question is: how do you handle the quote Reddit problem when a realm becomes the realm for X thing, but it's controlled and gated while everyone else is stuck in their small realms and don't have a chance to grow?
Um, that's an interesting. So yeah, some like talking about how Reddits would become just like a big, huge subreddit that kind of like monopolizes a genre or a topic. Um, we looked at a lot of different platforms. Reddit has something like that. I don't know if that'll play out here.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because we're breaking that scarcity model. Like I want you to think about those kind of subreddits. They kind of control themselves, and content's not easily shareable across places. And here we're really breaking that. We're breaking it up where it's hard to maintain a monopoly, because if there was a if there was a place that monopolized content, I don't know. It's hard to think that like everybody was so happy in that realm, and that's just where all the content goes. I could see like, and sometimes with community, especially like a persistent chat, and that's different than Reddit, right? Reddit. I want to think about this for a second. Imagine if Reddit was like a Discord. Yo, that would be like kind of unhinged in a way. It'd be like too much stuff going on. So
Right.
I don't know if there's gonna be like these monopolies of like constant chat that's just
Sure.
overflowing. That would not be a fun experience. Reddit can monopolize because the way it's presented is asynchronous communication.
Right. Right.
So you're not being like blown away with like, there's like there's so much happening.
Yeah.
So I would say, we'll see. I don't think that will happen, but we'll see.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Yeah.
from the realm perspective, again, just based on what you've described, the communication is more of a hybrid. It's not strictly asynchronous, but it absolutely can be from a chat perspective. Because
Hmm.
even if
Hmm.
chat's happening when you're offline, if somebody doesn't have time to do it at that particular point in time, they can still go back and read what's happening. But yeah, no, I think to your point, I think they're probably two different beasts, but there's definitely some. I would imagine there's some crossover there in terms of like philosophy, how to deal with that. I think
Yeah.
it's a good question.
Yeah. It's one I would say we looked at a lot. That problem is interesting, and I don't know what the solution is going to be when Moonbeam scales up. We'll find out.
Hmm.
But that does exist on Reddit. It doesn't exist on Discord,
Hmm.
right? So it's like a weird. We'll see.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the intent is that we would not be in favor of that
sure,
philosophically.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Opcost Games asks, how will ads work on the platform?
Okay. Yeah. So we're doing a few things. So one of them is you have your normal I'm a free user, there are ads, right? And then the creators make money that way and the platform makes some money that way as well. The other option is when you subscribe to a realm. That realm could offer certain benefits such as all those streams there might be ad free. That could be a thing they offer. We're going to kind of play around with giving the realm more control over those kind of things as benefits to see what they want to do with their subscription benefits. The other thing is for streamers themselves, we're looking at you could subscribe to a realm. You could also subscribe to like an individual person. And if that person on their stuff, you won't see ads, right? And then we have the platform wide approach of like what we call Moonbeam Plus. This is interesting because it is a subscription based thing, which comes with a lot of extra features, ad free being one of them, platform wide. But if you are a creator, you actually earn 5% more. So you're going to pay off the cost of it essentially. And the way we do that is again with the moonstones as our method when you earn. So if you had Moonbeam Plus, Jamie, and someone gave you $1, Moonbeam would match 5%. So you would actually get $1.05. All right. And so we have that kind of model as well that we're looking at. Ideally, we have one more other thing that I cannot speak about yet that is kind of wild to allow. I'll say ideally what it kind of does without giving too much away. But if you had no subscription, no nothing, none of that, and you're just a viewer, and you have let's say just some pocket change, there's a way for you to also use just a small amount of money to have a ad-free experience on Moonbeam. And when you do it that way, the creator, they will actually make substantially more from you not seeing an ad than they would otherwise. So the ads are being very thought out in a new way. The reason why we can do this and no other platform can't is the way we set up our monetization structure. And it has to do with like very simple things of how money is transacted and the cost it incurs when you do it. So yeah, there'll be more on that. But
Cool.
the idea is we want to give people a lot of options to have whatever experience they want.
Sure. No, I think that's a winning strategy. Is like from a functionality standpoint, that would be ideal. I guess with the way that I engage with the platform and the way that I know my audience does, having more control on the creator side, I think is like a really helpful way for us to make sure that we're curating it the way that we see fit without you guys having to be hands on with every single thing or make sweeping decisions for every community because building a community is such a unique thing based on who's in it, and making those calls I think is what separates, not separates, but it kind of highlights like who is a capable community leader and who isn't, and not to like suggest that I am one of those, but just as an example of somebody who's running a community, making those nuanced decisions on behalf of the community, having a direct communication with that community, I think is far better than a platform just making sweeping decisions that then creators have to apologize for all the time. You know.
Yes. Yeah.
Speaking of platforms, Opcost wants to know: is it possible to get a demo of how negative sentiment of negative sentiment and how Pixis handles that? That may be a good question to return to because I think I've read ahead a little bit and there's some other ones in here that I think may have some shorter answers if that's all right.
Yeah.
Opcost, if I don't get to that or you have to go somewhere, please let me know and we'll get to it sooner. Squadles wants to know, and I think this might have been already answered, how strict are your requirements for earning monetization? There's a follow-up. Is there similar to affiliate and partner requirements, which I do think we did cover a little bit.
Yeah, I'll cover it again real fast
Sure,
for
sure.
those who haven't. There are none. You're a creator. When you get your first moonstone, you get 100% of the value all the time. That's
Cool.
it. Simple as
Cool.
that. Easy peasy. Yep.
Awesome.
And then I think with moonstones, just so in case someone asks like how they work, when the moonstone is given to the creator actually gets the monetary value directly paid out every 2 weeks. no
Oh,
matter how
that's
much it is.
fantastic.
So it is a we wanted to have something that was reliably going to be able people can kind of plan around.
Mhm.
So biweekly, we're looking at a payout. So you'll get just whatever the value was in Moonstones that was given to you. It will just go to your account.
Mhm.
Right now, we're initially using Stripe. We're looking at other options, but uh, that is what we're using it initially, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Next one's from Grumpy Crane Studio. Will I be able to continue to use OBS, or will I need a proprietary program to stream?
Nope, OBS. So
Cool.
OBS right now works, and we're looking at integrations with all the third-party kind of software. We're going to prioritize it based on what our community needs. So we'll go from there. But OBS works right now. Mhm.
Okay. Next one's from the Hellish Flora. The question is, so my understanding is that this is a combination of Discord and Twitch from like a philosophical point of view. Do
Yep.
you have any worries about trying to get people to sort of switch not one but two platforms? Parentheses says, I really like this idea, just worried about challenging two industry, leading platforms.
That's a good question. So in our Backerkit, if you go and I'll kind of give this example. We're working with a few tabletop role playing game publishers. One of them is Monty Cook specifically, and the
Mhm.
other is Evil Hat Productions. Um, they never felt that discords could be safe for their community. The amount of like volunteer moderators and like the moderation work if they had to, you know, hire people, it was just a lot. It's a lot of logistics to do that, right? So what you see in most Discord servers are moderators are either probably not getting paid, they're just volunteer, or if you're a brand or a business, it's so costly, you just don't have one. But they're using Moonbeam, and the reason why is they're using it because of Pixis. And so Pixis is really and it kind of ties in with the earlier question of how it does like it prevents so much. Like I've never seen anything work so well. And they were kind of blown away. So these are companies that are never using like the world's premier community kind of platform because they didn't feel safe. They couldn't use it. They've gotten all the information. They looked at Moonbeam and they're using it for the first time ever. This will be their community hub. So I don't see it as challenging like people to switch to platforms because I think there's going to be a few things that happen. Because we're not exclusive, you could stream everywhere. If you're a streamer and you have your community on Discord, well, you might want to stream on Moonbeam and just kind of like tell your community at first, like, yeah, I'm also streaming here in this realm, and they'll jump in, and then you'll just see right away, like the moderation benefit, like out, boom, it's just going to be there, and you're going to be like, holy cow. And then co-locating it with the video content is going to it's going to be self-evident. Um, will it take time? Sure, but we're not exclusive, so people can try it out. And I think when you try it out, they're going to be blown away with like, wow, this just makes sense. And I think it will be a natural place where people will feel good being on Moonbeam. You think about a lot of social media platforms, you leave feeling frustrated. Um, there's like a negative energy. We were trying to be like the opposite of that in every way. And I think that's going to also be a draw. Like, oh wow,
Mm-hmm.
I actually have fun on Moonbeam. Who would have
Mm-hmm.
thought? So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Next question is from Noah, one of my mods. And the question is there going to be reachable humans to help creators for issues that can't be self policed?
Heck yeah, that's what I'm here for. Call me up. But we're gonna have a lot of people that again we're working with like behavioral psychologists and stuff to figure out a framework to having like people that help realms kind of get started, being very involved in the community. Um, we don't want to just have people out there relying on not human support. We are. It's very interesting, and I want to like really just quickly put this out so everybody understands. While we are dealing with a lot of new technology, we are a human first kind of company. We see technology as a tool. That's why we will not have generative AI. We do not. We believe in creators. We don't want to have any of that stuff, right? Um, we believe that these are technologies a tool to help people and to help like humanity be better for it, and that's our vibe. So in that being said, we want people to be able to be on our platform and feel like this is not robo dystopia town, but that there's humans here who care about people and their success, and that's kind of our philosophy going forward.
Yeah, and I think from top to bottom, as long as intentions are clear and correct and handled well, I do think that like reasonably there was a conversation earlier in chat about AI and kind of the buzzword, the language around that right now, but the reality is that it functions in the way that its intent is designed to function. And so like ultimately it's one of those things where you can't like strictly say that it's a negative thing or a bad thing or anything like that. It's the application in this case. And
Hmm.
so ideally, right, in an ideal setting, again, a lot of this is like this conversation's occurring in the concept of a vacuum.
Yeah.
When it works well, and it has the intent of solving for problems that commonly come up, again, to free up the people who can think through the nuance, like our mods, to handle the more complicated situations, I imagine.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
not going to run the whole thing, but it will act as kind of like helping to lift that burden that would otherwise take up a lot of time.
Yes, the whole thing does require human interaction.
Hmm.
Um, all Pixis does it will flag things and put it in a queue for action by a human moderator.
Cool, cool,
And then as that happens, it just works out better for everybody.
awesome.
Mhm.
Next question's again from Grumpy. Are there any Moonbeam run realms? Like on launch, will you already have starter realms for people to join? And will they remain under Moonbeam moderation?
Okay, yes, interesting question. Because we thought about this. So Moonbeam itself, I'll tell you where we're at right now. Right now in our backer kit, you'll see there's a Moonbeam collection project. There's Moonbeam itself, and then there's like 5 other little projects. Those are the first 5 realms on Moonbeam. Okay. And those 5 realms, we have a lot more early adopters that you can read about in our backer kit page, a lot more communities popping up. And part of the backer kit itself is to get early access to priority realm. So you yourself could have one on in the alpha. Um, Moonbeam, I don't think we wanted like well, we asked ourselves this. I don't think we wanted to have a realm. Like because that's not our place, right? I look at ourselves like the infrastructure. We are the providers of infrastructure for creators to grow and thrive. We're like providing the roads and the hospitals and the schools, right?
Hmm.
Um, but it's for you all and the creators to really grow and thrive. So we at this time, there might be like some kind of support realm, like a place where people can maybe go and talk to people to get help, maybe
Hmm.
like from the team. But aside from that, I don't see us being generating content. Um, that's because you all do that much better than we ever will, and so that's what we're going to promote.
Cool.
So yeah, I hope that answers the question. But we will have realms at day one. We already have
Hmm.
realms now, and in pre-alpha we do have Gen Con TV is like doing live streams, testing, and stuff like that, and we have the first 5 realms again right now on Backerkit, getting funding for their projects.
Cool, cool.
Mhm.
DDS D&D asks, when someone is moderated, how are they made aware, if at all, that they have crossed those boundaries?
So we're looking right now. If you say something bad and it gets caught, we're looking at how to inform the individual. So we're still playing around with that. There's a few things I will say that are interesting that we're looking at. One of them is like for folks who might be on the spectrum or their English is not their first language, right? Where
Absolutely.
they are trying to say something, but maybe someone else miscontextualizes it.
Yep. Hmm.
So Pixis, what's neat is we see that as a tool to actually help inform people of like, hey, you might be sounding this way to someone else,
Hmm.
and it helps. It just helps inform communication. The second thing is too, if something were to be like flagged negatively, we are looking at perhaps allowing that to like almost pop up before it's actually sent and say, hey, Pixis sees this as this kind of thing. Are you sure you want to send it? Right? Like it sees it as insulting or like racist or whatever. That way, like, oh no, I didn't mean that at all. They could kind of like work that. So we are looking to be very like careful with one, we want people to kind of like be a little bit using Pixies again for even themselves as a way to say like, oh, you know what? I had a bad day at work. I really didn't mean to sound like a jerk. My bad. And then like rephrase their what they were saying. And then it can kind of go. So we're looking at like those kind of aspects right there right now.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, next question is from Cho Cho Cho. When you block people on Moonbeam, do you still see in chat or a timeline that you're not seeing their messages, or is there a way to completely block visibility on an account? I think for some context to this, with YouTube, you can block someone from appearing on your account, but I don't believe you can actively block them from seeing your content.
They will be gone. They will be Thanos snapped to you. That is our goal. If you block someone, that is the what we are trying to have. So, like let's say a realm block someone, that person that they will never see content from that realm, or they can't see anything there. If you as an individual block someone, again, they will never be able to see your stuff. And so, like if you were a streamer and you block someone, they cannot see your videos. You're kind of gone to them. and that's the intent. We want you to be when you block someone, and we'll maybe have a different word for that because maybe there's like mute, block, and then there's like Thanos snap, whatever this thing is. That's kind of like what we're looking at. But the intent would be that because that's for safety reason. Like we've all been there. We don't want that person who's like the cyber stalker person to be following us around and have like a sock puppet account. So we're addressing that seriously.
Noah suggested the word excommunicated.
Oh, I like you've been excommunicated. Yeah. I like it. That's pretty cool. Holy cow.
Next, we got one from Squadles that says, how friendly is Moonbeam going to be toward viewing in unconventional ways? For instance, a VR chat world that allows for viewing in a group on a movie screen.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, yeah. Can you repeat the question to me? Because that was very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. How friendly is Moonbeam going to be towards viewing in unconventional ways? For example, a VR chat world that allows for viewing in a group on a movie screen.
Oh, I think that sounds super cool. We've actually looked at, we've talked about with the Realm concept of having like ticketed events almost where you could show a movie. This is also something cool where I think no one else does this, but like you have a lot of indie filmmakers and stuff, right? That have really cool movies and shows or just like stuff. And maybe having like where they could license it to a Realm. So let's use it like VR chat movie watching thing. Suppose you're like an indie film creator and you're on Moonbeam and you have like this video library of your stuff. This Realm could like rent it, right? Like license it for a day, like you would a video, and they kind of pay for it. That creator gets paid. They have a ticketed event now in their realm, and like it's like this movie premiere kind of vibe. We're that hearing that stuff excites me because it's almost like we are just building a framework, and we think people are going to be so innovative in how they approach these kind of things. Like we're going to have movie premiere nights in VR and people hanging out in realms. I don't know. It sounds really cool.
It does sound cool.
Yeah, invite me to it when it happens. I'm down.
I've been writing down a couple questions here. I'm going to pepper them in amongst the audience too, so that the last like 5 minutes isn't just me like firing off questions. But the one that just came to mind, I think it'll be a good segue into the VR conversation. Is one of the things I struggle with the most as a creator is sitting here and wanting to listen to like regular popular music and being at the mercy of the RIAA, which I know is not something that you guys are like trying to square up against, but how like has there been any thought put into how are we going to share DMCA content on stream? Like I know, for example, a lot of Twitch streamers will just not save their VODs, and typically that avoids the auto flag of like the system that kind of looks for copyrighted content, for example. I'm going to ask if you're cool with it to pause the answer to that just for a hot minute, because we are in the middle of an ad break right now. I think in the meantime, I'd like to ask you a little bit of a curveball question that one of my mods asked, which I'm also interested to hear, but it's also not as important to the whole conversation, which is, how did you get into Warhammer?
Oh yeah, how did I get into Warhammer? So I grew up playing, the Warhammer. I remember like middle school, someone had like this magazine and I opened it up and it was like, there was the White Dwarf, and it was like had all the minis, and I loved them. Like, oh crap, they look so cool. But of course, you can't afford that. I was a little kid, So I grew up and I started playing the video games and everything like that. I did buy my own Space Marine minis at the time, and I've always loved the Dark Angels. Like that's been actually even before middle school. I think in elementary, my grandfather had a floppy disk of Space Hulk, and I played it. And,
that's so cool.
I was like, yo, what is this? I'm getting attacked by aliens on a spaceship and pixelated version. So I've always like really loved Warhammer. And then when I started playing D&D and then like making for it, I'm like, you know what, let me, then the pandemic happened. You had all these like virtual tabletops that could support playing it. And then I played it and I was like, yo, I love like having consumed all the games, all the kind of like other content from Warhammer, and then like sitting down and playing the game. I got in 9th edition, and I started playing competitively, going to different tournaments, playing locally, going to some GTTs, the grand tournaments and stuff. And yeah, I love it. It's like it's I get to play with artwork. Like you have these beautiful art pieces, and then let's see, I got like a tank right here, like here, boom. I mean, who doesn't want to take this and like kill somebody's army with it, right?
Right.
So like
Even
Yeah,
with
so I
the
have
10th edition rule changes of vehicle movement, right?
yeah, well, yeah, the 2-inch pivot. So I got it right next door in my basement here. I have like two uh actual wargaming tables made for Warhammer with full terrain setup. With I think I have 13,000 points of Dark Angels right
That's
now.
so cool.
Yeah, so I love it.
Back to the question that I asked before we went to the ad. DMCA content. Do you have thoughts on how to navigate that? One of the suggestions I always say, which is surprising to me that Twitch doesn't do, is they're owned by Amazon. Why not license Amazon Music to be, like, I know there's still licensing issues downstream from that, but is there any thought added to, I don't know, a library of content that can be used in that situation, or some sort of, I don't know who gets to make that call, if it's platform level or if it's really the record labels that are saying, like, if you don't do this, we're gonna hit the platform.
Well,
So,
it's very simple in a way. So one, we have a legal team that's looking at all this stuff like now. Like this is stuff we are looking at. Um, the reason why, like on existing platforms, you get hit with all these DCMAs and or DMCAs and everything like that. There's no rev split. Again, imagine if I told like a record label, yeah, you'll get a rev split from all the videos that have your soundtrack on it. They're gonna be like, hell yeah. And then you, as a content creator, remember the beauty about a rev split is it costs nothing. So what I mean is, if I am a content creator and I want to have like Hans Zimmer playing while I'm doing Warhammer, if I'm not getting any views and I gave Hans Zimmer or whoever owns that music like X% of my rev, it doesn't cost me anything. And then when I start making money, guess what? It's super cool. I have this awesome Hans Zimmer stuff playing in the background, and then they're making money too. So like it's
mhm.
like win-win.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think we're looking to set up is like these kind of deals where you do have a very clear content library
Mhm.
that you can plug into your videos with
Mhm.
music, and then it allows like small creators that make music to like come on our platform and like put their songs there,
Totally.
and then you can like use their music, and then they get a small rev cut, and then you have awesome music for your stream.
Mhm.
Win-win.
Yeah,
So we are looking at a
absolutely.
lot of that stuff, but
I,
the rev split functionality is kind of what gives us that advantage to do it.
to capitulate on that, and this is going to be like, it's going to be a narrower audience for this answer, but as a creator, is there going to be an opportunity for me to use the income that I'm getting from Moonbeam to give to my moderators? For example, if I get, X amount of moonstones per month, can I take a cut of that and pay it out to the people who are doing a lot of the day-to-day work in my stream?
Yeah, at the realm, you talking about the realm level?
Mhm.
Yep. We're gonna have this. So when I showed you the rev split for like the stream itself, we're having something built out for the realm itself too. And
Cool.
we're
So
looking
I
at like
can
maybe
I can like
yeah, so you
functionally
could
pay my moderators out of what I'm earning.
yep. So the
Cool.
realm will
Awesome.
operate like a little studio, and this person gets paid this much and that person gets paid
That's
that much.
fantastic. Cool. Cool.
Yep.
Okay, back to chat questions. Olympian asks, if you give a creator moonstones, do they receive money or do they receive moonstones and then you have to cash them out?
No, they get cash.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Yeah, a reason why, and I want to be again, a legal answer is moonstones are a digital good. They're not a cryptocurrency. They're not a substitute currency. So when a person gives moonstones to a creator, that creator is being paid by Moonbeam in cash. So there's really like no transaction between this person and this person. It's Moonbeam acting as the intermediary and paying cash out.
Got it.
What's owed? Yeah.
Let's see here. I don't. This one's a little bit adjacent to the exclusivity streaming conversation, but I think it's different enough that I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. But what sort of co-hosting functionality exists and or is on the roadmap? And have you thought about any functionality that would allow a chatter to kind of pop into a stream? I guess if Cho, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my interpretation is like, what sort of discoverability efforts are going to be put into, because for example Twitch has like the front page, they have like these new groups that you just kind of auto sort into.
Mhm.
Is there any thought that's been given to that from a startup perspective of like, how do we attract new viewers into spaces?
Yes. So discoverability is going to have your normal front page live now kind of vibe, right? So that's done. Then we have realm discoverability. So this is where Moonbeam gets to be really awesome in terms of discoverability. So front page live now stuff, front page realms that like you would like based on categories and things like that. Then when your favorite streamer, now that they're like kind of freed up and they could stream in all these different places at once, you could click on them and be like, oh, they're in all these different realms. How cool. Let me check those realms out. So the cross pollination for discoverability is going to be immense because you're not kind of just finding one streamer and visiting their channel and that's it. When you visit them, you're seeing like all the communities they are a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh, wow, that's really neat. I like this. I like that. And then the last one, kind of like the ace up our sleeve, is moderation, Pixis. So eventually, at full launch, so we're starting with Pixis being like a realm asset that they kind of use. That will eventually be given down to the individual. So the individual will, the realms like moderation settings are like the top end of the spectrum, and then you could like, as an individual, tailor it down even further for yourself, so you don't see stuff you don't want to see. And then what that does is it'll map to be like, hey, this community would be really good for you because you share a lot of the values kind of here based on moderation, right? So now we have a discoverability that way. So traditional, new thing with realms,
Mm-hmm.
even better with like down to like what kind of cultural vibe do you have in terms of like moderation,
Sure.
and that'll help discoverability too.
Well, and I imagine, I guess maybe to presume some context there. Like, for example, like as a trans creator, I know there's a lot of other trans creators on this platform, and the visibility between us is very, very, very vast. But like in this case, your suggestion would be that whether it's algorithmically or like organically, the cross pollination between those two communities will be much more strong because they have an existing similar moderation style or something along those lines.
Yes.
Okay, cool, cool. Okay, we've got a another question from Noah here, which I do believe there was like another one asked later, so I'm going to kind of combine these two. Do you want any similar types of creators or gaming space folks recommended for you to reach out to? And if so, where can we send that info? And then a little bit later, there was like a full-on suggestion, so I'll just throw that out there because it kind of works together. Have you reached out to Roll for Combat? This seems like it might be up their alley.
I have not reached out to them, and yeah, we would love. I guess the best thing I could say is if you know a streamer or you know somebody who might be interested, there could be like two steps, right? One is our Backerkit page has like everything about us on there. Um, Very informative. Like you go there, you're gonna know what Moonbeam is about and whether you're gonna like it or not. So I would direct people to just like check out the Backerkit just because it has like all the videos and explanation. Um, and then you could reach out to me. I'm on X, formerly Twitter, at a Joyce underscore Rivera. You could hit me up there. There's Moonbeam Stream on X as well. You could hit that up with a DM or something. Yeah, just like feel free, and even on our Backerkit page, you could in the community section say, "Yo, uh, kind of talk to us there." So we are different places, but we did a lot of effort to kind of the most information about Moonbeam is on the Backerkit page simply because we had to build it and that's where it's at. And you can hit me up, share it with whoever. And yeah, I saw notes. Yeah, I don't use X. Yeah, I feel you. I wish we were in better times, but here we are. But yeah,
Okay, cool. The next question, and this is one that I had too, so I'm very excited to see that this was asked, which is, sorry about the alerts going off right now.
no, it's
We
cool.
just had a sub. Thank you, Valendar. I appreciate you.
Hey.
Was there ever a consideration to just offer Pixis as a product instead of creating a whole new platform? Because it seems like I like the idea of the platform, but it also seems like Pixis does a lot of heavy lifting, and that's from Sebastian Miniatures.
Yeah, Sebastian. So you're hinting at something here. Remember we talked early on, very early on. How is a live streaming platform going to be sustainable monetarily? Well, Pixis is a licensable technology that will generate its own revenue stream and can do a lot of good all over the internet. So again, when I say like Moonbeam is a live streaming platform, it is, but it's also much more,
Mhm.
and that's why it's so different. So like Pixis can be something that a small business owner with a comment section on their website perhaps would want to license Pixis to keep that safe. They could, and so that will help again us sustain our business model. So there's a lot of kind of like other things under the surface, and it's cool that folks see the value in that. Because if when Pixis is like just out there in the world, like we could really take back the internet and make it not be a hellscape that it's
Mhm.
become.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Cool. Lil asks, what is the timeline on actually getting to use the product?
So it's in pre-alpha right now. So some folks are using it right now. validating all the tech stuff though. So alpha is going to be later this year. Is our goal is Q4 to have that out, and that is so all the folks on Backerkit who are backing us to get alpha access, they're going to be brought on then, and then beta will follow after, and then full launch. Those time periods can be shortened and expedited based on a number of factors. So we'll see, but right now that's our realistic goal to achieve. So and when we do roll these things out, we are being very purposeful
Mhm.
that the technology works as intended, because what we're selling is safety, and we are going to deliver on that promise.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I have this one. I had the same question, so I'm gonna pitch it a little earlier than the timeline that we have here. But so I know for me and a lot of other streamers, raids are a good way that we find ways to introduce communities to one another. Is that something that's going to be a functionality? Because I find that especially on platforms that are trying to do streaming as like an added thing rather than their main thing, for example YouTube, they don't have that same infrastructure built in for that discoverability, and YouTube discoverability is a whole nother topic. But is that going to be a function, or is there going to be something that looks similar to that I think will allow us to kind of, for lack of a more elegant way to put it, brute force introduce our communities to one another?
Yeah, this is so I don't have the exact answer for you there, because again, the way we're set up allows a lot of opportunities to be considered.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Totally.
because we can stream in multiple realms at once, we can have where do those people go after that stream ends? Can the streamer themselves set it up to preempt the raid to like, I'm streaming in these 5 realms, I'm consolidating all these viewers from all those realms, and then at the end we're going here, bah, and they like raid the realm, they raid another stream or something. Then there could be like a raid realm, like you could go from one realm to the next. There's a lot of cool stuff we could do to make it like fun and increase discoverability
Mm-hmm.
around. I think one time, I'm just gonna say this because I think it's a funny idea, but we talked about like a stream tornado or something, like a solar storm, whatever it's called, and like after a stream, you could like start to storm, and then randomly people are going all over the
Yeah, just send
moonbeam,
them in
and just
different
like yeah,
directions.
like right, yeah, yeah.
Well, I think that's a cool idea too, and like I understand the hesitance to answer that in a more specific way, simply because you I'm sure you personally in this conversation have not come across this way, but I'm sure that after a while, developing a platform like this, it kind of gets to be a little tiring to constantly be, referred to in the same sentence as these existing juggernauts of industry at this point. When you're trying to do something so much different, but it kind of rhymes, right? And
Mhm.
so, lifting one to one, an example like rating being a good one, a concept like that is maybe that's maybe it seems good to us, but in reality on the platform as a function, it may be not as, like impactful. I know for me on Twitch, raids are wonderful and amazing, and I love getting to meet new people through it. But for my goal, for example, of getting partner or something, it's not counted towards that. And so that's a totally different conversation about Twitch and how they handle that sort of thing. But out of curiosity, or not out of curiosity, but to kind of capitulate on what you were saying, is like to one lift all of these same concepts and techniques and things like that. I don't think that's the point of what you're trying to do here.
Yeah, no, we're
So,
looking at things. Yeah, and again, we're going to have the alpha and beta where these kind of questions will be asked, and they'll kind of be. This is a conversation with the community, right? And that's why we have our ideas, and so and what's cool is like for our type of for Moonbeam, people can be a part of like the beginning of it and help really shape it and be like, I was there for the when we made solar storms a thing, like like, it's like that kind of thing. And it's fun because like we are I think our approach is being like we have a lot of solutions that we've brought with like the realm concept and stuff, but we also know like the community is going to have a lot of really cool ideas where we're like, hey, we could kind of make whatever we want now. What do you all think? And then just hearing a lot of cool ideas, like a tabletop game. You hear
mhm.
like kind of give each other ideas and inspiration. It's really fun.
Yeah. We have a so between my partner and I and a couple people in chat, there's a kind of a group of us that do a monthly stream. I always call it like a relay kind of thing, where
Mm.
one of us will start and then we'll raid into the next person, just build a raid train throughout the
Mm.
day. Would that be something in your mind that you would envision as like, okay, that's a realm now? So we call it tabletop after dark. It's just a group of people that kind of like volunteer every month to fill a slot in that raid train. Is that something that you would see in your mind, knowing very little about it, of course, as a realm, or would that be something that would be kind of its own entity that would exist within a realm?
So if I'm hearing you right, it's a group of people that would fill consecutive time slots.
Yep.
Okay. I would be to me that could seem like something that would be like I guess right now the way again it's not for me to decide what that is because it will
Sure,
be
sure.
different for a realm. But I would say in my mind I might say that would be like me programming content for a realm,
Hmm.
right? And then like having like consecutive time slots like boom
Sure,
boom 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 boom.
sure.
Now, what'd be interesting is if you're like simulcasting that kind of like train of content in like 5 different realms at once.
Hmm.
That'd be pretty wild because then it'd be like this kind of like never-ending stream or something that's going around.
Right.
So again, what I get excited about is just like hearing these kind of things and being like, I don't know, that'd be what would happen. Like,
Yeah.
could you have this big like? Could people like start tagging on at the end of the stream to fill the next? That'd be kind of cool, like a
And
conga line stream
I
train.
I
Like
like that
everybody keeps going.
and this has been expressed in chat too. I like that your approach to this is one of curiosity. It's not necessarily feeling like you have the answer to everything, and you're like, again, from my perspective, the wisdom of approaching it knowing that you don't need to know all the answers right now, I think is like it's a pretty good indicator of success in my opinion, where you're not trying to bike shed every single decision as you go. And I think farming it out a lot to the collaborators is a really smart idea because you know, maybe there's a situation where it's going to be kind of a horse designed by committee, but like, a confluence of opinions can indicate like what the general direction should be chosen as, right? And
Yeah,
ultimately, I think that gives you that safety of being like, we don't really know right now, but we can grow and learn that together. You know?
I would say that the reason why that may come off that way is again, I'm a game designer. I
Mhm.
write adventures for D&D, and as we know, when someone takes my
I
module
know
and runs it
exactly
as a
where you're going.
dungeon, it's going to be wildly off the railroad
Sure.
every time. But then you hear the stories, you're like, that's so amazing, and the
Yeah. Yeah.
people who played it had such a great time. So I look at what we're doing is we build a framework the same way like an adventure module is just
Yep.
a framework,
Yep.
and when we
Yep.
build the framework right, it what we want to do is, and again, that's why it informs the modularity. When we build a framework right, it holds up no matter how people are using it inside of that framework. And we want to allow it to bend and flex and kind of riff off each other. And that to me makes a good platform and a good experience. When we get really technical design approaches that are like very rigid, like video games by comparison to tabletop role playing games, they're very rigid. Like you have to go down this path and that's it. You can't the NPC only says these 5 things. Um and I think that's what makes this different. Is a lot of other platforms are very they build like from that mindset of very strict. This is the box. We're approaching it from there is a box, but the box is very malleable.
Mhm.
And yeah, so
Cool. We have another question from the Hellish Flora about regional pricing. So, for example, the example they bring up is that in Brazil, subs are very inexpensive compared to bits, which are in USD. Is there going to be regional pricing that makes sense for other areas?
we've talked about that. Um, so this is where since the pricing is set by the creators themselves, I guess that's a good question. I'm not sure. We would have to look. We'll have to see. Like, would creators want to opt into that? Because we get into this place where if Moonbeam's commitment is to give a creator 100% of what they're given, um, I guess that's where we will have to see like where this goes. Because I know like with other platforms, they are setting the price, um, and when they set the price, it could cause those issues. Um, but I would imagine that there would be like a Brazilian realm, and they would reflect their sub tiers would reflect kind of like the local economy that they have.
Mhm.
So That's a good question. I'll think more on that because and I guess the thing I would ask back is, are you saying if I had a realm and my subscription tier was, 500 moonstones, $5 essentially, would Moonbeam somehow see where someone is geolocated and then make that price be something else? If that's the question, then I would almost say initially, again off the cuff, I would probably be more inclined to say that is a realm owner's decision to make.
Mhm.
Um, because I just don't feel like I could make a decision for somebody who's a creative. I can't set the price they charge.
Sure.
So that's where I'm at right now. But
Yep.
we'll look at more and we'll see kind of like more on
Cool.
that.
This next question, I really really like this one, and it is more specific to those of us who do art on stream, and especially it's a timely one because I think Twitch has made some decisions about this, and then they rolled it back, and then it happened again, and it kind of leaves everybody in the lurch about what's acceptable and what's not. But Zambies asks, there's a lot of things unclear on platforms, just like I mentioned, of rules for rules on things. For example, censoring women's bodies, which gets blanketed into artwork. Do you have a clear line in what people can and can't do in certain spaces? As an example, Zambi says, I do hate that Twitch allows larger streamers to get away with doing like sexy content or violent video games, but I can't paint a model that's showing a nipple, for example.
Yeah. Okay. This is a good question for me to I'll have a more detailed kind of explanation here on this stuff.
Sure.
Out the gate, I want to preface this. Out the gate, we're looking to kind of probably be 18 and up. Not for content wise, but just for the legalities of it until we prove out all of our safety security things, right? Because we don't want to mess with anything with bringing non-adults onto the platform and causing some harm there. So that's why we're doing that. But I will also tell you this. There are things like HBO Max, right? They have adult content there, and then like they have my kids could watch like a cartoon on it. So the idea that there are platforms that exist with video content that is on a spectrum of like adult content to kid content, that is something that already exists and it is done very safely. I think the benefit we have in our realm approach, realms, like if they wanted to have, sexy content or whatever, they could tag themselves as having that, and then that would be like allowed, because then with the technology we have underpinning Moonbeam, we could easily make sure that people who don't want to see that will never see that. And we'll make sure that people who do want to see it, when you're entering in a realm, there's a much more consensual exchange that's occurring. For example, on the front page of like Twitch or, one, I don't need like an account to go browse it.
Sure.
And then if I did and I saw like some spicy content, I could be a kid or I could be like offended or I'd be like, but on Moonbeam, if a realm like kind of wanted to have that and they kind of identified that they do have that, then that would be something that when someone is on Moonbeam, they see the realm like, oh, this realm's about this kind of thing. And they're kind of like opening the door and they're going into it, right? That consensual arrangement allows us to be able to say Moonbeam is a place where all types of content can coexist, and we can make sure that folks who don't want to see that type of content won't, and that everybody's kind of like consensually engaging on the platform in a safe way.
I think that's a really really good approach, because the consideration for, like, I've had to switch my mindset from a very United States centric one to a more global one as we've gotten more and more people into the community that are from different places that have different kind of like different measures of what is acceptable on public, like access and what isn't. For example, nudity in places like Europe is completely handled differently than here in the US. And I think doing that on the individual level, that consent-based program, that's a model that even Google follows with Safe Search and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
One thing I'll say before, because I think all creators of all types, we want them to feel like we are thinking about them out the gate, because I don't want anyone who is a certain type of content creator feel like a second-class citizen on Moonbeam. So
Totally.
we're being very, very methodical with that. Yeah.
Someone wants to know where the name Moonbeam comes from.
It comes from a D&D spell. Moonbeam.
Love it.
And a little quick funny thing about it, that spell, it will reveal shapeshifters. And so when you think about what Moonbeam is with Pixis and stuff, it is revealing the bad actors.
I love that.
It's preventing them from here. So that's kind of inspired by it. So Moonbeam.
I want to relay to you a lot of the things that are happening in chat in case you can't see it, but there's a lot of really positive commentary about, I know people have like legitimately gone during the stream to go back and have, talked about having back to the creator level already. And, a friend of ours who was talking about school earlier is pitching it as a concept already. So I'm very excited to see that there's so much confidence in this, because like, I'm sure, as you well know, that launching a platform like this, as ambitious as it is, it requires a lot of buy-in from a lot of people. And so, as we go here, guys, if you are feeling positive about this, feel free to share those thoughts. I won't necessarily read them out loud to everyone, but it's definitely heartening. It's encouraging, and I think it's because this is a huge undertaking. And
Thank you all so much. I appreciate that. That's
um,
really cool. Yeah, thank you.
let's see. Sorry, I'm going to catch back up on questions here. I think we kind of answered that one. Okay, so Cho says gambling is kind of a rough subject. I can see it being okay if everyone involved sees streaming gambling as okay and kids aren't around. But would the Moonbeam moderation team be taking an active role towards proactively disallowing content from, for example, streamers who broadcast gambling platforms that are known for skewing outcomes to make the game seem more favorable?
Um, yeah, this might be a good way for me to answer a broader question about
Sure.
Moonbeam's approach to content. One, content that is illegal, not allowed, right? Content that is unethical, and these things could be subjective to some, but I'll be very blunt. We won't allow bad things on our platform that hurt people. Whether that's like, there's not going to be like hate realms on our platform or hate speech realms on our platform. Not allowed. Um, Gambling to that, like, that's a very nuanced question. I would say if there's someone who is using some kind of content to manipulate people to lose money and extort them, that
Mm-hmm.
is not allowed on our platform.
Totally.
So those things will be handled by our legal counsel and how we are set up down the road. But from a philosophical perspective, um, I don't see. We're not making like judgment calls on specific types of content, more so than we're making judgment calls on like the ethical use of content on the platform, right? And if it is ethical and consensual, probably going to be okay. But once you start going down the other road, like we just mentioned with someone skewing gambling results and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
no, yeah, definitely not. And,
Yeah.
and again, we haven't even made I can't give you the answer on gambling itself. That's a whole other legal thing.
Totally. Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
just speaking philosophically at the moment.
Well,
Okay,
well,
on
right,
that.
right. I think
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
this is I hope everybody understands these are all intent based statements for the most part.
Yeah.
It's very much something that you're planning. We're establishing your character, the body of work that has been established already in the direction that it's heading, not necessarily asking you to make a bunch of promises here.
Correct.
Um,
Yes. Yeah. If you think about the existing live streaming platforms, they all have a cultural vibe with
mhm,
them.
mhm.
Yeah, we're giving you ours. Ours
It's
is like,
beautiful. I
yeah.
personally love it. I'm thrilled to hear all of this. I have one of my questions here, which is, so Pixis as a moderation tool has been well elaborated. Is there any thought to, or has there been any experimentation? We have another ad break, so I'm gonna wait for this one as well. Sorry, the timing of that
Oh,
is
no
just
worries.
awful.
No worries.
Um, let's ask another Warhammer question. So Dark Angels obviously is your preferred
Oh yeah.
40K army. Do you have you played AOS? Are you a fan of fantasy at all? Do you like
I,
any of those?
I haven't played AOS yet.
Okay.
They look cool, and I'm not like against it. It's just almost like I don't know. It's like I don't have a lot of time, and when I do have
Totally.
time,
Totally.
playing Warhammer, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, what faction do you play with AOS and stuff?
So I used to own a store. I owned an
Oh wow,
FLGS for a year, and
wow,
I actually I stepped away from it. I bought half of the inventory from the previous owner, and that's how I owned the store.
wow.
I did it for about a year, and then I realized that like I didn't want to do business. I wanted to build community, and I can do that without such a
Mm.
financially dubious plan. So of course I became a live streamer because that's a very very financially secure space to exist in.
Oh yeah,
Um,
totally.
all that to say, long walk for a short story. I love fantasy. I love AOS in general. I've been a really really big fan of the cities of Sigmar, so like the Empire or the Human
Mm,
faction, which is strange because I never go for the Human faction, but their
nice.
design is just really fun. They're fun to paint, and I just love how they look. So.
The models are so, yeah. The models are getting so beautiful for
Absolutely,
all
absolutely. I
different
often
stuff.
say, like,
So
for
good.
all the bad things that GW does, the anti-consumer behavior and stuff like that, their models
Mhm.
are really, truly like unmatched in a lot of ways.
They are.
So,
They are.
okay, so I think we're just about out of that ad time. So I'm going to ask my question, which was that So Pixis as a reactive tool has been kind of established as a concept. Is there any intent to
Preventative, I would say preventative. Yeah,
preventative? That's a good way to. I
preventative.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a way better way of kind of couching what we've
Reaction
talked
means you
about.
saw something bad.
Yes,
Pixis is all about
exactly.
preventing you even from seeing it.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that clarification. My question as a creator is there any intent or thought put into using it as a tool to help community build? For example, if we wanted to do like a question of the week or something like that in a realm, is that something you think could be a use case for Pixis going forward?
If you mean like Pixis would generate a question,
Yeah, or yeah, just do things like automated things that happen every week or something like that. Like if I wanted to, for example, aggregate a bunch of photos of art that people have been doing to show off on stream, is that something that we could use similar to a Discord bot where you program it to do certain carry out certain actions rather than making it a human like skill that needs to be involved
yeah,
there?
I would say in that question, the Pixis and what it's made for would be doing the moderation stuff. There maybe is there going to be a sidekick to Pixis down the road? Maybe.
Sure, sure.
There could be things like that. We are going to have things available for like bot integrations, like to automate things that third party folks can make when we use APIs. But right now, no, just because I want to be careful that I want to be careful that I'm clearly defining what Pixis is and what it is not, and I want to stay away from
Yeah,
anything generative
yeah.
like that. And so right
Yeah,
now, yeah,
that's a fantastic
yeah,
answer.
yeah,
It's a good way of addressing what I was saying without necessarily like everything that you have mentioned so far has indicated that this you're taking a very open-minded approach to this whole thing. I'm somebody who doesn't love saying like really broad sweeping statements like no that will never happen kind of thing.
mhm,
So I appreciate the honesty and the upfrontness about it, especially the clarification about it not being generative because I think that's a big fear right now with all the AI conversations that are going on. So I appreciate that honesty and that like
mhm,
that directness with that. Um,
mhm.
we had another clarifying question, but before we get into that, I want to extend the opportunity. If you do need to go at any point, please feel free to let me know. I think we only have like 2 or 3 more questions here. I'm going to cut it off there for everybody
Let's do
in
that.
chat.
Let's do that. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. We'll finish after the 3 questions, and
Yes,
we'll
exactly.
call
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so the question about pricing by region has kind of come up with a clarification from the Hellish Flora.
Yeah.
So were you suggesting that creators are able to set a price per region? For example, if a creator is US based and they have viewers elsewhere, currency and time zones are a huge pain in the butt. Is that something that the creator then would control rather than farming that out to have like a standard across the platform answer to that?
Yes.
Cool,
Yep.
cool. Also, everybody really loves the Moonbeam idea. There's a lot of Druid players in the chat. It looks like.
Yay! Nice.
Okay, we've got a couple more here. Um, Potentially, maybe not.
Yeah. If that's it, yeah. If that's a wrap, well,
My
thank
chat
you
has
so much for having me on.
my
Yeah.
chat has been begging me to ask you. This is an inside joke.
Okay.
You do not have to answer this seriously if you don't want to. How do you feel about the color chartreuse for minis?
The wait, say that again.
The,
The
the
what?
color chartreuse. The
The
color.
color. The color chartreuse. I would not know. So this goes back to why I don't paint. I can't paint. I don't know. Like I'm not. I'm not good with colors and all that stuff. So I would say that's a good question for for someone who deals with all the colors and paints and stuff like that. Yeah.
They were bullying me into
Unfortunately,
asking you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bothered.
yeah. Yeah. I would say Caliban green. There we go. Is what I like. Yeah.
um,
Okay.
the two last very quick ones I'll ask is like if there is a place that you want us to submit if this is a thing that you're a step that you're at right now, is there anywhere you want viewers to submit suggested content creators that they may want to reach out to you?
Um, for us reaching out to folks right now, we're like we're working hard with the folks that are backing us, and I don't mean that to be like we don't have time to reach out to them. It's just like
Sure,
we're
totally.
trying to like get all their needs right.
You've got a very big thing to
Yeah,
focus on.
yeah. I would say if you think a creator would be interested, again, point them to our Backerkit page. Not even just to not to back per se, but just to like see the information for themselves.
Sure.
We do have a pledge level that is like $1.
Cool.
That we put there very on purpose to just say, hey, if you wanted to like support us with $1, do so, and then you can engage with us on Backerkit and leave comments. We have a lot of polls that are talking about features that are going to happen in the future that we're going to, throughout the Backerkit, the folks who back us do get to vote on, and that helps drive where Moonbeam will go. And again, I am on Twitter and X, and I'm also on where else am I at? Well, that's really it. So yeah, the Backerkit does have the community tab function. You could write stuff. So I might make a question that's open to comment for anyone.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And the last question is, how
All
do you
right.
feel? How do you feel about Magnus the Red and that he did nothing wrong?
That model. I hate that one. I have played against Magnus, and I cannot, like, the lion gets killed every time, and he's just like mortal wounds, 18, whatever. Like, no, I have to say, I had one game, turn one, I like brought I had like 1,500 points of stuff to shoot him. And it did like 3 wounds, and then I was done with that guy. So I hate him.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all this time with us. I didn't expect it to go this long, to be completely honest with you, and I really appreciate you like flexing that time with me here. I'm super excited to tell you that like through reading the chat in between the questions, there's been a lot of positive reaction to this. There have been people that have unequivocally backed in the time that you've been here, and I am so thrilled for that, because my philosophy has always been, like if I have a platform, I want to use it to uplift things that I also believe in. And so I want to thank you specifically for answering things so clearly, concisely, and honestly. And also I want to thank chat for being so, you guys have been so receptive and helpful with the questions. It's just been really, really awesome. I mean, for something that we kind of just threw together this week, I'm really thrilled with how this went. So
thank you so much, Jamie, and thank you to everybody in the chat. And I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see a lot of you on Moonbeam. So I'll let you go, but thank you, and you all have a great weekend.
Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it.
Take care.
All right, have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Too.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was really cool. I really, really love that conversation. That was like the thing that I always know about the thing that I know about the internet and interacting with people in an internet situation is that the more barriers you put in front of them, no matter how thin those barriers are, it stops people from engaging. You know what I mean? You need people to buy in. You need people excited about it. You need people kind of invested in it, literally, figuratively, whatever, in order to get something like this to succeed, because it's a really, really, really big ask. My objective was not to bring him on in order to convince you guys to back. My objective was to bring him on because I've had a lot of people ask me about it, and I wanted to know more about it myself. And I figured instead of just having a conversation about it privately and then relaying that info to you, it's better to get it from the source. So I really appreciate you guys like hanging out and participating in that in that conversation with me, because it's hard for me to think of all the questions that I want to ask, especially from the perspective of creator versus a viewer, because if you guys are going to be consuming the content that I continue to make, then it's important to know what sort of things you guys need and want from a platform or from me as a creator in order to continue doing what we do here. And for those of you who are here for the first time today, thank you so much for joining me. Whether you came in on a raid or you dropped in because you were interested in the conversation we were having, I really, really appreciate you guys being here. I think the best thing that you can do to continue supporting my work is following me. If you want to subscribe, please do so. There's no obligation for that. Dang, you guys are wonderful. Thank you all so much for hanging out today. This is so fun. Thank you enough. If you enjoyed yourself today and you are not already part of the community, please come back sometime. I love you guys. Have a good and safe weekend. It's going to be a good one. I can feel it. Tonight, of course, do not forget to eat something tasty. And above all else, go out there and make marks. Love you all so much.